Wanna move my feet. Wanna jump on one. Wanna move my feet.
Hi, my name is Aiden. I am from Green Harbor, the Kingdom of Polaris. Today I am going to be doing a little tutorial on how to make quick change arrowhead covers. For me, my favorite archetype in V8 is Sniper. Now most people think Sniper is very underpowered and not really usable when it comes to the game. And a lot of that reason is because of how long it takes to switch your specialty arrows. Now if you're really good at the charge and can't, that's not a problem. The big problem is, how do you take your arrowhead and put the correct color on there in a quick way? Now the way to do that is a quick change arrowhead cover. Today I am going to just quickly go over how to make that from the beginning step of I have this and I have some fabric to the sewing. First thing you're going to need is you're going to need your arrowhead. You're going to need one of your 5 specialty colored fabrics. You will need some markers, preferably in the color of the fabric. And you will need some thread, again preferably in the color of the fabric. You'll also need 2 pairs of scissors, your fabric scissor and your paper scissor. You do not want to get these two mixed up, you will be murdered. And then you will need a sewing machine. So right from the top, we're going to go ahead and grab some fabric. I've already used the yellow for my mock-up here, so I'm going to know that it works. So I'm going to switch over to this purple. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay our fabric down. Now I got some Lycra fabric. This is very, very stretchy fabric. You can see here it has a lot of give to it. And it is fairly thick, so it's not going to be see-through when it's stretched out over the head of your arrow. I got 1/3 of a yard, super cheap. Probably only cost me $3 for this, and I'll be able to make, I don't know, like 8 or 9 arrowhead covers just out of this one piece of fabric. Now I only have 12 arrows, so I'm not going to be doing 12 covers of just one color. I'll probably make 3 or 4 out of each of the colors so that I can keep them on me, switch them over while I'm playing the game. We're going to grab our arrowhead, we're going to grab our marker in the correct color, and we're going to lay our fabric down with the right side, or the side you want people to be able to see, on the table. You're going to grab your arrowhead, you're going to just plop it down like this so that it is pointing at the table. You're going to give yourself probably about 2 or 3 inches of space on each side of the arrow here. You're going to grab your marker. You're just going to do a rough circle around your arrowhead. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't even have to be a circle. It can just be fairly circle-like. This will be on the inside of the fabric. No one will see it, and it's just a guide for where you're going to cut later on and when you're going to pin. So I have my circle cut out here. I have my circle, you can see it here, on the fabric, and I'm just going to cut a square out of this. About as square-like as it can be. The easiest way to do that is just grab your corner, pull it across, and now you got a nice little square. And I'm going to take my fabric scissors, and I'm just going to cut it out. Just cut it out. And I'm going to set this fabric off to the side. So I got a square piece of fabric here with a circle roughly in the center. Does not have to be perfect. I am going to grab my arrowhead again, and then I'm going to grab some pins. I have a nice little jar of them here, and I'm going to need 4 pins total. I'll just lay them out here for me so that I can get to them easy. Take my arrowhead, I'm going to grab one of the corners of the fabric, pull it up to the center, and grab a second one, also pull that up to the center. It's going to stretch a little bit, that's good. You want it to stretch because you want it to be tight. Once you have those 2 corners up, you can see I have this flap of fabric, this like tab of fabric hanging off here. We're going to take our pin, and and we're just going to pin that corner down as close to the arrowhead as you can get. So you see there, that is where the pin is sitting. You can see there's a nice little dog ear here. Now we're going to go on to the next corner. We're going to grab this corner here. I'm going to pull that up. Do the exact same thing. Again, it can have some stretch. That is what we want. We want it to be tight around the arrowhead. We'll put the next pin into the fabric. Well, after that, you can see now I have 2 dog ears. 2 pins, 2 dog ears. Now I'm going to go for that last corner, and guess what? I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did to the last 2. Grab my pin, pull that tab up, and then I am going to make 2 more dog ears out of the tabs that are now hanging off. Once you have all 4 of your dog ears in place, like this, all 4, you're going to try your best to straighten them out, make them as uniform as possible. Because what you want is you want these to be a straight line. Straight line from corner to corner, straight line corner to corner. Mine's a little off, so I'm just going to pop out one of these at a time, readjust them, pinch and tug where needed to get the fabric where I need it to be, and pin it back down again. Alright, that looks good enough. Now again, this is very stretchy fabric, so it does not have to be perfect. Good enough is good enough when it comes to stretch fabric. Now once we have everything lined up about to where we want it to be, we're going to grab our fabric scissors again. And we are going to cut off these little dog ears. You're going to want to get as close to that pin as you can get without actually hitting it with your nice, expensive, very sharp scissors, because that will dull them. As you can see here, I'm going to just grab it like that, and I'm just going to cut. Rough is fine. It does not have to be perfect. I'm probably going to say that a whole bunch during this, because it doesn't have to be perfect. Now, once you have all those dog ears cut off, it's going to look something like this. You'll see that it has open holes in it. That's fine. Next step we're going to do is we're going to want to cut these off. We don't want this fabric to go all the way to the shaft. We don't want it all the way to the shaft. We want it down about an inch, inch and a half past where the arrowhead hits the arrow. And we're just going to cut a straight line across like this. So just fold it down over your scissors. Boom. Nice straight line. And we're going to do that on all 3 sides. Alright, once you have all 4 of the edges cut straight, it's going to look something like this. Now is the time where we get to figure out if our fabric is stretchy enough for an arrowhead cover. You're going to just grab it, grab your cover here like this, and you're going to pull. It should give you a nice satisfying pop when you pull it off. There you go. That means it's good enough. Now at this point, you can totally just flip this inside out, sew it down, and it's good enough. It's a working cover. But I'm going to be making a whole bunch of these. So I'm going to make myself a template. And I'm going to show you how to do that as well. I'm going to take these pins out. And we're going to lay this flat on the table. And you'll notice here that these edges are not uniform. They're not going to match. It's stretchy fabric. You cut it while it was stretched. It's going to happen. But you can find one that you like best. Me, I like the thinner one with a taper, the thinner side with a taper to it. I'm going to grab a piece of paper, grab a piece of paper, and I'm going to make a square out of it. If you don't know how to make a square out of a piece of paper, you can go ahead and look up origami. And that's the first step to every origami, is you make a square. Now, the way you do that, just grab your bottom corner, bring it up, so that bottom edge matches exactly to your side edge. Now we're going to fold this piece down here, so that it's nice and flush with that edge. And then we're gonna just cut this piece, this tab here off. That is why you needed your second pair of scissors. This is a paper cutting scissors. I keep these at my desk so that when I'm cutting, I don't accidentally grab my fabric scissors. You do not want to cut paper with your fabric scissors. That will dull your very expensive scissors. Again, I'm gonna grab our paper scissors. We're just gonna cut off that tab right along that crease. And after that, we got ourselves a nice square piece of paper. Now take that nice square piece of paper, and we're going to fold it in half, hot dog style. There you go, got a nice hot dog or taco out of your piece of paper. Now you're going to do it again and make yourself a hamburger. Now we have an even smaller square. We have two folds, fold over, fold over. This spot here that now has two folds in it, that is the center of your arrowhead. You want to remember that, because the next step here is we're going to take our piece of fabric that we have already cut down to the size of the arrowhead, and we're going to lay that with the center of the circle that is now on the inside of that fabric, roughly to the corner right here of that paper. From there, we're going to grab our marker. We're going to draw right along here and give ourselves the shape of the wings from that piece of fabric. It's going to look something like that on the piece of paper. Again, it does not have to be perfect, because from here, I'm going to take this piece of paper and I'm going to fold it one more time. Just like this. So I just made a little triangle out of the piece of paper by folding like this, corner to corner. You can see here, I have a flat line and a flat line. Right here should be where the corner meets on the drawing. We're going to find the one that we like the best. I like this little one here better than this one that's a little bit bigger. And I'm going to cut, again with the paper scissors, along this line while it's folded. So now it's going to look like this when you're done. And you're going to pop that open, and you have yourself a template for an arrowhead cover. If you want to make sure that this is going to look right and fit right, grab your piece of fabric, lay it down on there, and you want it to be roughly the same size. You can see here my paper is a lot bigger than the fabric, so I'm going to fold it back up so that it's back down to this shape again, and I'm going to cut it some more. I'm just going to go right from the bottom here, and I'm going to cut up, and I'm going to give it even more of a taper. Like that. Open it back up. That's the new look. Put your piece of fabric on there. Look at that. That looks a whole lot better. That is a lot closer to the piece of fabric that I had. With this, you can go back to your fabric, again with the right side to the table, side that the people are going to see to the table. You're going to place your fabric down there. I'm going to grab my same colored marker, and I'm just going to trace along the entire edge of that paper. Now you totally could fold your fabric up twice and do one cut But with a stretchy fabric like this, I don't trust that the cut is going to be straight. So I'm going to draw the template all the way around. Set that template to the side and come in and just close any gaps that I have on my outline. If you can cut a straight line without needing a guideline, you can do that. You don't have to fill them in. Grab your fabric scissors, start cutting. I suggest cutting it out in a square first, just because that leaves your fabric in a state where you can cut more stuff out of it later if you need to. I'm a fan of saving scraps. I don't like my scraps to be uneven or have weird tabs on it, so I like cutting it so that it has a fairly straight line left over, so I can use this piece of fabric here later if I want to. Square cut out, and now I'm going to cut this down right on top of that line. Now the reason that I personally like to use the same color marker as the fabric is just in case it still can be seen once you're done sewing. Usually when you sew, that edge disappears. It goes under your thread. But if for some reason you can still see part of it, it's better for it to be a matching color than a different color. Different colors tend to be much more obvious. We want to try and hide our mistakes as much as we can. So I have that cut out, and you can see here, this is the piece cut out from the template. This is the piece cut out just by eye. And you can see when I lay them down on the table here, this one is a lot more uniform and nice than this one. Both will work, but these are nicer. This point is where we're going to go over and start sewing. I'm going to be working with purple fabric, so I am going to use purple thread. Much like with the marker, the idea is that this thread will not be seen, but if the seams pull tight and you can see the thread, it is much better for it to be a similar or matching color than a contrary color, because a different color will make that more obvious, and you don't want that. You're going to fill your bobbin with the correct color thread. I already have purple here. I have all my colors ready. I have several of these bobbin kits with dozens of bobbins in them, so any color thread that I ever use, I fill up a couple bobbins. I probably have 30 or 40 different colors of thread here. This just makes it so that I don't have to redo it every single time. I have one ready. I'm going to thread my bobbin into the bobbin case. If you have this type of bobbin case, it's a front-loading one. You're going to thread it. You want to check your bobbin and make sure that it is tight enough. If you just hold it, it's going to sit still, but if you wiggle a little, it'll drop down, and that's what you want. You want it to be not too tight, not too loose. Pop that into our sewing machine here. Click it in. I'm going to thread the top of my sewing machine. I have a very old sewing machine. This is pretty much the only sewing machine I've ever used for Amtgard. I don't think I want to get a newer one, because that would mean learning how to use a new machine. I'm going to thread it through the needle. If your machine has a self-threader, go ahead and use it. My machine has one. I just don't like using it. It's easier for me to just eye it and pop it through the thread. Super quick like that. Pull your foot up. Make sure your thread is not tangled around the back. Put it through your foot, come down, and pull that bottom thread back out. Now you have both your pieces of thread there. So now I am going to grab my interface, stabilizer, whatever you want to call it. This is Sulky brand. There's not a ton of adhesive on it because I want this to pull off easily. feels kind of like parchment paper, where one side is a little bit shinier, one side's a little bit rougher. Again, you're going to want to cut this with your paper scissors, not your fabric scissors, because this is paper. This is not fabric. And I'm just going to cut a square out that's just slightly bigger than my fabric. And then I'm going to iron that down to the inside of the fabric. So you have your pattern here, the part that you want people to see, then you have the inside. You're going to iron this down with the shiny side, I believe, to the inside of the fabric. This is only my second time using this brand. I'm hoping that I have this right. If not, my hot iron will definitely let me know if I'm wrong. Just going to iron that down real quick. Pop, pop. There you go. It is now attached to the fabric. Does not take long. You can go ahead and trim that paper off if you want. There you go. So you can see paper is roughly cut to the same size as the fabric. Once you have that cut out, you're going to take each of these tabs and you're going to peel just a little bit of that paper off, and you're going to roll that under. Roll the fabric under so that you can see there's a bit of a tab of paper hanging off there, and you're going to iron that fabric down again. So you'll see here that it's ironed down. You can see a little groove there where the fabric ends. We want to do that so that there's a nice finished edge on the bottom of the fabric that we're pulling over the head. We're going to do that to all four sides. Now once you have those ironed down with your little bit of tab, you're going to grab your sewing machine, turn it on, and you are going to set it to an applique stitch. Now an applique stitch is different than what us in Amtgard call applique. To us, an applique stitch is just a zigzag. It's just a zigzag stitch that we do very, very close to do a nice, uniform, solid applique edge around our fabric designs that we are sewing onto other fabric. For this, we're doing what's actually a applique stitch so that this stretch fabric holds the thread. Now the one that is, you will see, for me, let's go ahead and grab this. You can see on my sewing machine here, right here, that would be what we consider an Amtgard an applique stitch or a zigzag stitch, but that is not the one that we want. We want one of these ones with darts in it, because we want a straight line that is then having darts put into it. I personally prefer the darts to go to the inside, so that when it's being stretched, it's opening up towards the edge of your fabric. So this is the one that I'm going to do. Right. And you can see here, this is my stitch. These here on this side, that's the one that I'm going to end with. This was me testing it. That's what I like. When I peel this paper off, you'll be able to see right there. And now that has stretch to it, which is what we want. If you do just a straight stitch, you are not going to have any stretch when you do that, unless you're using stretchy thread. I do not like using stretchy thread. I like using rayon or cotton, stuff that's very strong. Now that I've done my test piece, I can go ahead and move on to my actual piece. that is what that looks like on that piece of fabric. I'm going to tie the loose ends of thread into a knot on each side. In a lot of cases, you can get away without tying this thread off if it's going to be on the inside edge and if that seam is going to sew over those pieces of thread and lock them into place. I'm not confident that's going to happen here, so I'm just going to loosely tie it 3 times on both sides. Once I do that, I am going to go around and do that again to all of the rest of the edges. I have all of my edges sewn down, and now we're going to go to the inside here where we cut those darts out of. The way we're going to do that is we're going to lay our fabric here with the fabric up, paper down, and we're going to fold it just like that. So you're going to fold this corner to that corner, and then we're going to sew right there. Now we're going to want to make sure that this edge goes to that one, not to this one. So we're going to fold it like this. And we're going to sew that one down. The more we do this, the more difficult it's going to be to get everything under your sewing machine. Just be aware of that. There's not a whole lot we can do to get around that. Alright, only 2 more to go. I'm going to do that same thing. And the last one. Now that I have all of those sewn down, I am going to go back to all of these loose threads, knot them and tie them in place, and then cut them down to size. Once we have all of the thread tied down and knotted, we're going to go through and we're going to very carefully pull all of this paper off. You're going to tear it right at the lines. You want to get as much of this paper torn away as you can, because you do not want any of this paper left in your fabric when you're done. Make sure you go around the edges here. Peel all of those as well. Once you have all of the fabric pulled off, you're going to go ahead and flip that cover inside out. There you go. And you have yourself a finished quick change Arrowhead cover that fits around nicely, just like that. All done. Now, if you don't like these little dog ears that are still hanging off, you can go in and you can stitch a little bit of a curve right here to the corner, and that'll cut down on that. You're still going to have them. It's not going to create enough issue to where it's going to slow your arrowhead down. It's soft. It's not going to hurt somebody if it hits them, but it will work really well. Quick on, quick off. There you go. And that'll stay on nice and tight. You can do that in all 5 colors, whatever works best for you. You can see here what I mean when I say you want a matching or similar stitch, because it's going to show through on those tightly pulled edges. If that were like green, it would be really gross. So, thank you for coming to my quick change Arrowhead cover tutorial. It was a lot of fun to put this together. This was just something I had thought of yesterday morning. Took about 24 hours to figure out what I was going to do, and that was it. So, thank you for coming out. See you next time.